Life is marked by moments of peace and moments of storm. All of us, sooner or later, walk through dark days when the heart tightens, the mind grows heavy, and it feels as though the ground is moving beneath our feet. These are the moments when faith is tested, when our certainties are shaken, and what we believe is confronted by the reality of pain. But it is precisely in these moments that we discover what it truly means to trust in God. The Bible never promised a life without afflictions. On the contrary, it prepares us to face them with courage and hope. In the Gospel according to John, chapter 16, verse 33, Jesus said, "In the world you shall have tribulations, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world." These words echo like a lighthouse in the darkness. It is not a promise of the absence of difficulties, but of victory in the midst of them. It is a reminder that our faith must not be built on favorable circumstances, but on the person of Christ, who has overcome everything that frightens us. Often, when we face trials, our first impulse is to ask, why? Why me? Why now? Why this way? But the Bible teaches us that the focus should not be the reason for the trial, but what God does within us through it. The letter of James, chapter 1, verses 2 through 4, says, "My brothers, consider it great joy when you pass through various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces perseverance, and perseverance must finish its work, so that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing." The trial is not a punishment. It is a process. It is the furnace where God shapes our character, strengthens our faith, and prepares us for deeper levels of spiritual maturity. But this is not always easy to see while we are in the midst of pain. When we lose someone we love, when we are betrayed, when we face illness, when doors close, when resources fail. In these moments, it is natural to feel fear, sadness, and insecurity. Faith does not eliminate our human emotions. It gives us direction and hope within them. Having faith does not mean not feeling pain. It means not allowing pain to stop us from moving forward with God. There is a psalm that has crossed centuries like a spiritual embrace for those who suffer. It is Psalm 23, which declares, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." The psalmist does not say, "if I walk," but "even though I walk." This means the valley is part of the journey, but it also means we do not walk alone. The God who is with us on the mountaintops is the same God who is with us in the valleys. He does not abandon us when the night comes. On the contrary, his presence becomes even more evident. Sometimes the greatest trial is not what happens to us, but the silence of God. There are moments when we cry out, weep, pray intensely, and it seems that heaven remains silent. We may even wonder whether God is listening, but the Bible shows repeatedly that God's silence is never absence. It is preparation. It is alignment. It is maturity being built. In the book of Psalms, chapter 40, verse 1, it is written, "I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined to me and heard my cry." God always hears. He always answers, but he answers at the right time, the time that shapes our heart and prepares the miracle. And it is at this point that faith becomes deeper. Faith is not believing that God will do exactly what we want. Faith is believing that he will do what is best, even when we do not understand. True faith is revealed when we have no answers, but continue trusting. When we see no way out, but keep walking. When we feel nothing, but continue praying. Faith is not measured in easy days, but in difficult ones. There is also an important point. Trials are not signs that God has abandoned us. Many times they are signs that he is leading us to something greater. In the first letter of Peter, chapter 5, verse 10, it is written, "The God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you, confirm you, strengthen you, and establish you." Notice these words: restore, confirm, strengthen, establish. The trial does not come to destroy, it comes to build. And when we look at the story of great men and women of faith, we realize that none of them lived without trials. Moses faced rejection and desert. David faced persecution. Joseph faced betrayal. Daniel faced the lion's den. Paul faced prisons and thorns in the flesh. And Jesus faced the cross. Their faith did not prevent them from facing trials. Their faith enabled them to walk through them. The same happens with us. Perhaps today you are facing something that feels bigger than you. Perhaps it is a financial problem, a family conflict, an illness, or a moment of emotional and spiritual exhaustion. Perhaps you feel tired, worn out, without strength. But know this: God is closer to you now than you imagine. He never wastes a tear. He never wastes a pain. He never wastes a trial. He uses all of them to strengthen you and lead you into a new season. Faith in times of trial is a faith that matures, deepens, and learns to trust not in what God does, but in who God is. And when this faith awakens within us, nothing can bring us down. When we sincerely look at the difficult moments of our lives, we realize that it was precisely those moments that brought us closer to God. It was not on calm days that we learned to pray deeply, nor on prosperous days that we sought the Lord's face with greater intensity. It was the tears that taught us to bow our knees. It was the losses that taught us to value God's presence. It was the silences that taught us to hear His voice. That is why, many times, the trial becomes the bridge that leads us into a deeper relationship with the Father. Faith is not built on comfort, but on challenges. And each challenge we face reveals not only our strength, but God's strength within us. That is why the Apostle Paul declared, in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 9, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." This means that the moments in which we feel weak are precisely the moments in which God manifests Himself with greater power. When our own strength reaches its limit, that is when divine strength begins to act. But to experience this strength, we must learn to rest in God, even when everything around us is in turmoil. Resting in God does not mean giving up on life. It means trusting that He is in control. It means recognizing that He is working even when we do not perceive it. It means believing that while we sleep, He remains watchful. In the book of Psalms, chapter 121, verse 4, it is written, "Behold, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps." This means that God never takes His eyes off you. He never gets distracted, never abandons, never walks away. He knows every detail of your life and of your pain, and it is precisely this divine care that allows us to keep walking in times of trial. Faith gives us steps even when we cannot see the path. Faith makes us move forward even when we feel nothing. Faith keeps us firm even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. Faith is the hand that holds our soul and prevents it from falling into despair. There is a powerful passage in the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, verse 1, which defines faith as the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. This definition reminds us that faith does not depend on what our eyes see, but on what our hearts believe. Faith looks beyond the present. Faith sees what God is doing in the invisible. Faith understands that spiritual reality is greater than any visible circumstance. Many times, when the trial lasts longer than we expected, we are tempted to think that God has forgotten us. But He never forgets. In fact, He is working in ways we cannot perceive. Just as a seed needs to be hidden in the earth before it sprouts, we also go through hidden moments before we flourish. God's silence does not mean abandonment. It means germination. He is preparing something within us and around us. We can see this clearly in the story of Joseph, son of Jacob. Joseph was betrayed, sold as a slave, falsely accused, and imprisoned. These were years of suffering and injustice. But the Bible records that throughout that entire period, God was with him. And every difficult situation was preparing Joseph for the greater purpose of saving an entire nation. In the book of Genesis, chapter 50, verse 20, Joseph says to his brothers, "You intended evil against me, but God turned it into good." This sentence summarizes the mystery of trials. What is designed to destroy us, God transforms into a tool of victory. Likewise, our trials are not ends in themselves. They are steps of a divine process. They build a path that often makes sense only when we look back. God knows the whole route. We see only a small portion. He sees the purpose. We see the pain. He sees the end. We see the now. That is why we need to trust Him, even when we do not understand. Faith in times of trial also teaches us to depend on God and not on our own abilities. We live in a world that values self-sufficiency, but faith invites us to recognize that we are dependent on the Creator, not because we are weak, but because He is strong, not because we are incapable, but because He has the power to do abundantly more than all we ask or think. The letter to the Ephesians, chapter 3, verse 20, affirms that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. This verse reminds us that God's power does not operate outside of us, but within us. He acts in the depths, transforming our mind, strengthening our spirit, and shaping our character. And this inner transformation is one of the greatest rewards of trial. When we come out of a difficult season, we are no longer the same. We are stronger, more sensitive to God's voice, more aware of life's fragility, more grateful for small things, more detached from the illusions of this world. Trial is the school of the Spirit, and every lesson learned brings us closer to Christ. But it is important to remember, God does not expect us to face trials alone. He gives us His presence, His word, His Spirit, and also people. Fellowship is one of the pillars of faith in difficult times. God uses brothers, friends, family members, and even strangers to strengthen us. Sometimes a simple word spoken by someone is God's answer to a weary heart. Sometimes a prayer made by another person is the breath that rekindles our hope. In the letter to the Galatians, chapter 6, verse 2, it is written, "Bear one another's burdens and thus fulfill the law of Christ." When we share our struggles, our burdens become lighter. And yet, there are moments when the trial is so personal, so intimate, so deep, that no one but God can understand. These are moments when words do not come out, when tears fall silently, when only God knows what is happening within us. And in these moments, the Holy Spirit acts as comforter. He does not need explanations. He understands our groans. As the letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 26, says, "The Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know how to pray as we ought, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words." This verse is a wonderful promise. Even when we cannot pray, God continues listening. Therefore, faith in times of trial is not a solitary faith. It is a faith sustained by God Himself. Thus, when we reach the final stage of the trial, we often realize that what seemed like despair became testimony, what seemed like weakness became strength, and what seemed like the end became a new beginning. God does not allow us to go through battles without purpose. He is a caring Father who sees what we do not see, knows what we do not know, and prepares the way even before we take the first steps. Even when our eyes see only the storm, God's heart is already preparing the rainbow that will come afterward. He does not abandon us in the process. He walks with us, guides us, and sustains us. That is why, when we look at everything we have lived, we realize that we were carried more times than we imagined. On the days when we thought we had no strength, God was sustaining us. On the days when we believed we were alone, He was closer than ever. On the days when we understood nothing, He was writing something we are only now beginning to comprehend. Divine providence does not fail, does not delay, and does not get lost. It works perfectly, even when our perception is limited. And many times, when we finally reach the other side of the trial, we understand that God was working in details we could never have noticed in the moment of pain. Faith matured in trials is a faith that learns to rest. It is a faith that does not panic in the face of the unknown, because it knows that God knows the end from the beginning. It is a faith that understands that life is not made only of clear days, but that even the night has its purpose. It is a faith that discovers that God is just as much God in silence as He is in miracles, just as much God in waiting as He is in answers, just as much God in tears as He is in smiles. He is unchanging, firm, constant. He is the rock in the midst of the storm, the light in the midst of the darkness, and the shelter in the midst of battle. And this faith, transformed by the fire of trial, becomes a living testimony. Others will see in us the strength that does not come from ourselves. They will see the peace that makes no human sense. They will see the hope that resists chaos. They will see the perseverance that cannot be explained. And in seeing this, they will be drawn to God. Trial does not produce only personal growth. It produces spiritual impact around us. Just as the Apostle Paul declared in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verses 8 and 9, "We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed." These words echo as a hymn of spiritual resilience. They remind us that even though life pressures us, we are never crushed, because God guards us from within. When we understand this, we realize that trials are opportunities to see God acting in ways we would never see in the normal rhythm of life. It is in the desert that we see the pillar of fire. It is in the cave that we hear the gentle whisper. It is in the furnace that Christ appears beside us. It is in the prison that the doors open. It is on the cross that love is revealed. And that is why faith grows in times of pain, because it is in these moments that God reveals his face more deeply. And throughout this journey, every verse read, every prayer made, every tear shed, and every sleepless night becomes part of God's work in us. There is no waste in the kingdom of God. There is no useless pain. There is no forgotten tear. Every detail is remembered, recorded, and transformed. The book of Psalms, chapter 56, verse 8, says something extraordinary. "You have recorded my wanderings. You have put my tears in your bottle. Are they not written in your book?" This means that no tear goes unnoticed by the Father. He watches every step, every sigh, every inner battle. He sees what no one sees. He understands what no one understands. He cares for what no one else cares for. And it is precisely because of this deep care that we can trust that trials do come to an end. They do not last forever. Pain is not eternal. Night is not endless. The Bible declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 30, verse 5, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." This promise reminds us that no matter how long the night seems, morning always comes. God always brings a new time, a new chapter, a new season. He turns tears into dancing, mourning into singing, despair into hope. And in the end, we understand that true victory is not coming out of the trial without wounds, but coming out of it with faith. It is not avoiding the storm, but learning to trust the God who calms the sea. It is not never falling, but rising every time we fall with the Lord's help. The victory of the Christian is not in the absence of problems, but in the presence of God in the midst of problems. And when this truth becomes real to us, nothing can stop us. Therefore, as we close this important theme, remember, your trial does not define who you are. It reveals who God is. It is not a sign of abandonment, but of care. It is not a meaningless weight, but a bridge to a new level of spiritual maturity. God is with you in every step, in every tear, in every silence, and in every prayer. He is working right now in the invisible, preparing paths, strengthening your faith, and shaping your heart. You are not alone. You have not been forgotten. You are being led. May your faith remain firm even when the winds are strong. May your hope remain alive even when everything seems uncertain. May your heart find rest even when the future is unclear. The God who brought you this far will continue guiding you. He is faithful, He is present, He is good, and He will sustain you until victory is fully revealed. We have reached the end of another Bible sayings for today. May the message inspire and strengthen your faith. We hope this portion of the Word has touched your heart. To continue receiving these daily moments of reflection, subscribe to the channel, leave your comment about what impacted you the most, and don't forget to share so more lives can be reached by the Word. We are counting on you. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.